On today's episode of In Depth, we are speaking with the Honorable Kent R. Hance. Born and raised in Dimmitt, Texas, Hance came to Texas Tech, graduated in 1965, while also being involved in the Delta Tau Delta fraternity, and was vice president of the Student Government Association, and was also a member of Tech's famed Saddle Tramps. After serving in Congress and being the only person to defeat George W. Bush in any election, Hance came back to Texas Tech to serve as its third chancellor, and upon his retirement in 2014, went to Austin and Washington to practice law with his firm. He currently hosts a leadership seminar for students on campus.
Well, I think you go back in the 50s and even the 60s and 70s, your primary source of information for political information was a local newspaper. And articles they printed from other press outlets, AP, UPI, those were the sources. And then by the 60s, you started getting the evening news, CBS, ABC, NBC evening news. It'd come on at 5:30 and to give you about a 30-minute program on news, and that was a little different. But then when the internet came about by the late 80s and the 90s and 2000, it was starting to change, and it completely changed by early 2000. And it was a source of information for politics was internet. And it still is today. Social media and the Twitter, they have all kinds of sources of information. And newspapers give you a more in-depth understanding of an issue, but as far as image as an issue is concerned, it's primarily social media or electronic media. First campaign, I was running against a guy who had been in office 16 years, and he had been state senator for 12 years, and he was chairman of the banking committee, and he had a lot of power. And no one thought I could win except me and my wife and one of the two children. It was tough. And so I got out there and just started running hard and outworked them, and did a lot of door-to-door campaign, and I had a lot of Texas Tech students that worked hard for me. Well, I was born and raised around conservative Democrats. That's all we knew. And there weren't any Republicans in Dimmitt when I was growing up, and so that's what I was. And everybody got elected in a primary. You got elected out of the Democratic primary. So I ran for state senate as a Democrat and was serving in the legislature where it was controlled by conservative Democrats. But when I got elected to Congress, the first session up there, you figure out pretty quickly that there's a big gap between conservative Democrats from Texas and liberal Democrats from the Northeast and West Coast.
Game days. What are your game days like?
Well, I always get up early. In the fall, I like to go outside around 7:30 and be a cool breeze, and the fall's in the air, and I just like it. And then I'll usually go out and eat with some friends before lunch, and then at my house I'll be watching some games around the country during the noon and afternoon. If it's a night game, then I try to go to the game. If it's a 7 o'clock game, I try to get there at 5 o'clock and have a bite to eat and see some of my friends. To me, a game, college football game, is more than a game, it's a happening.
Yeah.
And that you get to see friends, you get to do a lot of things that you normally wouldn't do.